You know, I really like this show. Of the newest Star Trek shows, so far this one's my favorite. It does seem to be the one that is the most like The Next Generation. It takes place in the year 2380, just after Shinzone and Data blowing up, but before Spock fell into the black hole that took him to the Kelvinverse. I know a lot of people are comparing it to the Orville, and I agree, it's a lot like the Orville. Some folks are calling it a ripoff, but I think it's sufficiently different. It seems like a mixture of the Orville and Rick and Morty. The humor in the Orville is a lot of really cliched sitcom tropes, though, so Lower Decks is funnier. The first season of the Orville was a lot of divorce jokes that were pretty stale. I like the Orville, but not for the humor. Lower Decks isn't the funniest show I've ever seen, but I do prefer it to the Orville. The best thing about the Orville is that it reproduces the feel of The Next Generation, and I think Lower Decks does this too, but of course even better because it's actually Star Trek. I was worried that if they put in too many wacky jokes, it would be hard to keep it consistent with canon because it would strain credulity. Actually, I'm not even sure that this show is considered canon. It's debated whether the animated series from the 70s is canon, and I can't really find a clear answer on that. I'd like it to be because there are some great episodes on that show. So the premise is that the USS Cerritos is the ship Starfleet sends to do second contacts. They do all the paperwork that has to be done after the first contact, and the main characters work on the lower decks of that ship. Ensign Tendi is an enthusiastic Orion, Ensign Boimler is an ambitious but bumbling human, Ensign Mariner had a higher rank but got busted down to ensign because she's a bit of a troublemaker. Also, there's Ensign Rutherford, who is a cyborg with malfunctioning implants. At this point, I'm getting into spoilers, so if you don't want to hear those, here's where to stop. The first officer, Commander Jack Ransom, voiced by Jerry O'Connell, gets bitten by a bug that infects him with a virus that turns him into a zombie. That's kind of weird given that the transporter is supposed to screen out contaminants, but I suppose there are known exceptions like the polywater virus that makes everyone act drunk. The ship's captain, Carol Freeman, is Ensign Mariner's mom, and she instructs Ensign Boimler to keep an eye on her daughter since she's prone to cause trouble. Commander Ransom turns into a zombie and starts turning other people into zombies in the ship's bar while Ensign Rutherford is on a date. Ensign Tendi goes to sickbay to help out there. The ship's doctor is Dr. T'Ana, who is Cation and seems cantankerous like McCoy, which I love. It's good to see a Cation on the show because they're relatively rare. They pop up in the movies in the background every now and then, but I imagine their makeup is hard to work with in live action, so you pretty much only see them with speaking roles in the animated series. In the older animated series, there was a Cation bridge officer named Maress. Boimler tries to stop Mariner from selling weapons to the people on this new planet, but it turns out it's just farm equipment. This giant spider monster gets out of its pen and they have to run away from it. Boimler wants to stun the spider, but Mariner figures that would spoil the milk. It gets a hold of Boimler and he insists Mariner phaser it, but the farmers on the planet say, "No, don't phaser it, it'll spoil the milk." Luckily, the giant spider monsters are just herbivores and Boimler just has to wait for it to get tired. Serendipitously, the goo that the spider slobbered all over Boimler contains a cure to the zombie virus, and Dr. T'Ana puts it in the ship's ventilation system. Ensign Rutherford decides not to continue seeing the lady he went on a date with, cause when they were running from the zombies, they found a malfunctioning turbolift, which fascinated Rutherford, but his date was totally disinterested. Another thing that this show seems to have in common with the Orville and The Next Generation is that it seems like it would be more episodic rather than having a season-long story arc. I like long story arcs, but it's also nice to have a Star Trek series that is more digestible in small amounts. So yeah, this show is awesome.